I would like to share with you a profound spiritual experience that happened to me shortly after I was recovering from a cancer operation in 2011. It demonstrates that divine grace is all around us and that we can become beneficiaries spontaneously and quite naturally. I have to mention that at that time I had been meditating for about 40 years as part of my daily routine, and I was already aware of a divine presence which surrounds all of us.
I was in the garden, standing down an old chair while enjoying the spring sun. I couldn't tell what the reason for my joyfulness was. I simply attributed it to the fact that I had just completed some commercial work and relished a breathing space between jobs, perhaps added to the fact that the garden was just so beautiful with the birds singing and the flowers blossoming all around me. But that was not it. I also became powerfully aware of a silent presence, not a personal presence, but a presence of being which saturated the very air I was breathing and lingered on anything my eyes, hands and ears touched. Occasionally I had to pause in what I was doing and let the feelings wash over me, leaving me with a deep sense of joy and gratitude. Then I carried on sanding the chair, enjoying the satisfaction it brought. But the feeling did not leave me. It became more and more persistent and intense. I finally decided to retreat into my meditation room in order to focus my attention exclusively and without any distraction on my companion. Before I could even sit down into the meditation chair, I felt a tingling sensation in my body rising up my spine and quickly spreading through my whole body while I slumped down into a half-lying position. As I closed my eyes, instead of seeing the dark shields of my eyelids, I was staring into an intense light. It was a light that was not just in my eyes or even my head, but cascaded like a waterfall over my sprawling body. But unlike water, it consisted of countless fine, luminous filaments pulling me upwards towards an enormous sun. I noticed that the moment I lay spread-eagled in my chair, I had already abandoned my persona and ego completely, and there was simply nothing holding me back. I had entered a new, autonomous mode of existence, which was simply made up of the fact that I was alive, nothing else. My new surroundings consisted of a space of pure light, with nothing in front or behind it, just an intense reality of essence, luminous and consuming. But it was anything but merciless. As soon as I offered myself, it welcomed me with intense joy, which instantly transformed into ecstasy as I had rarely known before, and for a while it was teasing and playing with me, offering new intensities of rapture and pointing my attention toward endless vistas of luminous orbs that were nothing less than the infinite centers of themselves. Each one could have been a whole new universe to explore. I was stunned by the panorama. I felt blessed that I formed such an intimate part of it. As I turned away from the lights, I became aware that I was being elevated into a new reality, where the chair I was lying on and the room itself were no more than vaporous mists, objects of little permanence and reality. And what I saw here was essence in its purest form. Wherever I looked, I saw new landscapes emerging, rising out of luminous mists, sometimes as thick clouds, drifting and percolating through metamorphosizing shapes, which created fascinating objects. These clouds were unmanifested matter, shifting landscapes of colour of different densities and character, springing into shapes, responding to some mysterious creative impulse, and then dissipating. And within no time I was surrounded by a glorious archway which expressed perfectly my wonderment about this region, and from there other arches opened ahead of me, each different, created by my continuing thought process, each more glorious as I walked through them. They adapted intimately to my thoughts, inspiring me to look further, with a mind that had ceased to think in a linear way, but instead spread out like the rays of a sun, exploring simultaneously its many options all at once. There was space without the sequential movement of time. It was a space made out of existence, being, if this makes any sense at all. As I ventured further through archways of thought, knowing intuitively, explicitly, why every aspect of their grand, intricate design was shaped the way it was from its luminous fibres, I sensed the reasons why my new archways opened as I progressed, because every archway signified a new realization. Every shift in my perception and thinking pattern simultaneously affected every part of the world surrounding me. I was surrounded by mental matter, not as abstract waveforms of mental energy, but waveforms solidified into incredibly complex shapes, in phenomenal detail, each design element communicating directly why it had to be exactly the way it was. And clearly, whatever was created had at its root a luminous light, a light that gave it sustenance and life. It was easy to focus on the underlying light and identify it as its source for existing in the first place, a light which was a luminous sun or suns. At every end point of thought, shape or feeling were these luminous suns. I saw that all thoughts and all things were rooted in pure consciousness, and all thoughts in their final analysis will inevitably reveal their serene and exalted origin. I'm aware that every cliché known to man is likely to be catapulted into life by an experience such as this, and I'm conscious of the limitations of pressing language into the service of describing something that clearly belongs to a language-free zone, the opposite hemisphere of the brain. But there it is. This light is like no physical light at all, more like a space lit up, a stillness that was, wherever I was, a presence of luminosity right beside me. I felt as if it smiled the moment I turned my attention towards it after tearing myself away from the wondrous sights surrounding me. It regarded me like a child, lost in its world of play, and like a loving parent accepting its child with love and joy the moment it turned away from its play, fully assured that it would not be left out of sight for a single moment, no matter how far it strayed. At any time I could enter into the light wholeheartedly, and it would accept me with joy and without reservation. It was this reassurance that made me linger and explore my new environments, being aware of my intent for research. But I was more like a child being entranced by the vibrant world surrounding me than a researcher. Wherever I looked, I saw new patterns emerging, creating an infinity of finely woven objects. I was aware of the presence of the light, my silent witness and guarding parent all the time, waiting patiently for me to follow it home into its very heart. And each time I called, it appeared reliably and joyfully, and each time it revealed a new and thrilling, yet unchanging aspect, reassuring me of its eternal companionship. It was this that gave me the freedom to turn my attention towards gigantic rings of fire surrounding me, with symmetrical flames casting vast changing patterns miles high into an endless sky. Immediately after the first ring reached its apex, another ring formed above it, with an irresistible invitation to be carried skywards by its overwhelming force. And simultaneously I became aware of my body once more, and I felt a powerful, yet pleasantly cool pressure on my forehead, as if some god had placed 3 fingers on the spot between my eyebrows, urging me to take its energy and let go of anything that was still fastening me to my former self. The ring of fire and the touch on my forehead were the same energy. At this point I was gripped by an intense ecstasy which was enough to sever any remaining link or attachment I might have had. It was the same light as before, but of a new intensity and of a greater order. The fogs of thought that had seduced me only moments ago were licked away like the morning mists by a midday sun. The sun was clarity, with layers of clarity revealed as each gave birth to a light of even greater intensity. And in the end, there were no attributes, just the neutrality of being. No insights to be gained, no wisdom to behold. All insights and all wisdom were nothing more than shapes painted into the sands of an incoming tide. There was nothing to be spoken of because there was no medium to convey it, only stillness, being. For a few further moments I could see with the eyes of creation, looking out from the center of clarity of an unfolding world of shapes and appearances, strange shapes that emerged in ever unfolding patterns, creating new worlds around me. I heard a celestial song in the distance, which then solidified into the mundane siren sound of an emergency vehicle. I knew I had spent just over an hour in my chair. My wife's hairdresser had arrived, and their animated chatter floated across the landing towards my meditation room. There was a distinct peace underlying the sounds, and peace cemented all the shapes of my old world together again